I mean, I talk about her. Oh, my mom used to do this, or she did this, and I have pictures on the wall of her holding my niece, and her birthday party, and when she went to Ireland the same year she passed. So it just is made and videos and pictures, right? So, and then of course honor her on Mother's Day, or her birthday. Just with like, oh, what are my favorite pictures I want to share with the world today or so. I would say it's ongoing, right? And it doesn't have to be a bad thing because you reflect through grief, and then you remember like, wow, I remember when this happened, this happened. So it's like a time of reflection, no matter how long it's going to be. And of course, one day you might, wow, like I had a wonderful year. I really didn't think about, her passing or something, or holidays come around. It's like, oh, we're going to have fun this holiday just like we used to when my mom was alive.
Grief doesn't come with a rule book, especially when you're over 40. We're in a stage where we're balancing life, family, careers, and expectations. So today's episode, we're going to have a raw and real conversation. I'm joined by a dear friend of mine who's shared something very personal. We both have experienced the loss of both of our moms, and we've known each other now almost, I would say, 12 years. I want to say somewhere between 10 to 12 years. It's been a long time, y'all. And we're going to have a real honest conversation about what life looks like with this kind of loss. If you've experienced grief or you're walking alongside someone who has, this conversation is for you. So we're going to really dig deep into what it looks like, how we've gone through it in our own personal journeys, and really just have a transparent conversation because there's not always a lot of conversation about this journey. So thank you, Ms. Yaps.
Welcome.
Yes, and here's the thing with this kind of conversation, I feel that some people can be really open about it, or people don't. Like, it's one of those, let's not talk about it, like, sweep it underneath the rug. And I think that, at least in my own personal journey, when I'm in safe places to have those conversations, actually help with the healing of it instead of it being, it's not something you get over. I guess it's something is there. It's like this
Get
weird,
through.
yeah, you get through. And it's one of those conversations that you find places and people to be able to have those conversations. So I would like for you to just share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig right into the conversation.
All righty. Well, my name is Iyabo Ali. I know I look 20, but I am 41 years old as of April 10th this year. But youngest of five kids. I went to Hampton University and studied electrical engineering and graduated from the real HU Hampton University in 2006 with an engineering degree, electrical engineering degree, and start working in the government. So today I still work in the government. I used to have a dog when she passed, but I love animals. I love fish. I love traveling, exercising, cooking, my family, my faith. So it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And the thing is like with knowing her, like one of the things that we always I feel like was the foundation of our relationship is your genuine love for people. And I think that like when we first met each other, like our story is kind of complex because we met each other because of we were in direct sales together and kind of still are. But the thing about it is that what connected us, I think, was our connection to our families
Right.
and how our families are important to us, be it our siblings, and being like some of the cultural connections as well, which really makes a huge impact. And I think that part about it is that with knowing that, that sometimes can be the hardest part about loss. So I would love for you to share, like, what was that moment like for you, or that season like with, because both of our moms passed away from breast cancer.
Well, she had endometrial cancer, but
Okay, a
cancer,
cancer.
period. Mhm,
Yeah.
right.
And we're finding more and more people like are actually getting diagnosed. Like I know
Right.
several individuals right now that are going through different versions, both men and women, which is almost a little bit freaky at this point that so many
Right.
people. But share a little bit about that journey, like from you finding out to the unfortunate transition.
So I think it was maybe possibly almost 2 years before she passed. I think she either went to the doctor and or like told me, my sister, and or all of my siblings, like, hey, I was diagnosed with cancer. Because I remember they she had hysterectomy because I think they found her was it A1C or C120, not her A1C.
No, that's,
Her C,
that's
yeah, her
Japanese.
C, her, yeah, her C125 number was like it was a negative. Then it shot up, I guess, at whatever next appointment she had. So she found out she had cancer. Me and my sister were there when the oncologist was telling her like treatments and stuff like that. And she was like, well, it was just time to fight it or whatever. And, she used to still open up her pharmacy, work out, travel, go to, and pretty much just go through it and showing that, yeah, I might be tired after chemo, but I still will take a nap and then open my pharmacy or, work there. Or, hey, let's go walk in the neighborhood. Okay, I'm tired. Let's turn back. So she was still being resilient,
Yeah.
still working, still just showing like, just because you were diagnosed with something doesn't mean you have to like your life is over, live your life to
Yeah.
the fullest. That's how I lived and how I saw her live. So I remember that during treatments and things like that, and I think they said it wasn't really working at a certain point. So she said, well, I've lived my life, and in her mind, I'm sure she knew that she equipped us to, live like just amazing people her and my dad raised us to. So I remember she made a statement. I don't remember this was before she got diagnosed or like after, but she was like, because none of my siblings my oldest sibling had a son, but none of us who lived in Maryland had children yet. So she said, if none of you all have a child before I die, I'm going to come back and haunt you. But my mom was a comedian. It's so funny, whatever, and carefree and, giving and loving everybody. And used to say, oh, Miss Ali got me a job here. My first job at CBS because of your mom. So she used to, my brother had a niece that February and she ended up passing out October. So my mom used to, finish up with the pharmacy, close it, and drive to Frederick to be with my brother and my niece. So it was beautiful that she got to have a grandchild, a granddaughter who was local. Because my nephew was like he was a teenager by that time, so he's an adult pretty much. But it was just a beautiful thing to see that she wanted to spend time with her granddaughter as much as she could. So we had pictures of them. I think that my parents went on a cruise that summer. And I know she was in pain and stuff like that. And I think she was like taking a lot of pain medicine, ended up getting, I think, also that they had to repair. But it seemed like she kind of declined from then. So she was on home hospice, and me and my brother and sister were home. I'm the youngest, and then I have a brother and sister older than me, and then I have two other brothers. But us younger three kids were home. And my dad had went down the street to a real estate office and said, I'll be back soon. I'm just going to, do a few things. So me and my brother and sister literally were around her, and I remember I looked over and it was like 5:55 on October 20th, 2019. Or was it October 10th? October 20th, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, I think I said like, mom's not breathing anymore, or yeah, I think so. And it was 5:55. I remember looking at the time. So we didn't want to call my dad, even though he was down the street, literally 5 minutes down the street. So we ended up telling him when he came home, but we also told my other two siblings. So, we were grateful that, we were home with her. She wasn't like in a hospital or anything like that. And I know she knows she was loved. My aunts and uncles used to visit and stuff like that. So, but she definitely raised us to like still continue, still go on, like go through your grief, whatever processes, but live how she would want you to live. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And here's the thing that I don't think people always get is when you're going through that, we learn so much by watching their journey. Like how
Right.
you said about the continuing to still want to push through
Right.
resiliency
Right.
of it all. And I will often share with people, it's like your kids learn so much more by how you are and what you're
Right.
doing more
Right.
than anything that you can
What you
ever
say, right.
say.
Right.
Like there's so much even in the crazy, here's the crazy thing for any of the listeners. Our moms passed away almost a year apart. My mom passed
Yep.
away in November of 2018 and her mom passed away in October of 2019.
Yep.
And the thing about it is that when you're watching someone go and fight for their lives, like that's the part where it's like you acknowledge what's going on, and which I'd say is like this weird space that we're in of like you're not oblivious to the fact of whatever ailment your family
Right.
member or your parent is going through.
Right.
But then it's also in this space of like appreciating the time. I think it makes it so much more valuable. And is that something that did you really hold on to through your process as well?
Right. So I moved back. I sold my house, moved into an apartment, and then ended up moving in with my parents before I bought my second place. And so I had time to take her to appointments, change her medicine. So I kind of became like a caregiver as well, with because I don't have a medical background, but my siblings do. So, we spent time together. I used to take her to appointments, like I said. So, just spending time and knowing that, you don't know what tomorrow brings, even though you have faith and everything's God's timing, you just make the best out of everything. And I was fortunate to have a wonderful relationship with my mom. We used to joke and play and everything like that. So it was more so like, okay, you don't know when, her last breath will be, but make it count even more,
Yeah.
and still jokes to have fun, push her to eat, push her to drink something, so just that time you realize that you wouldn't want anybody else to do it. Of course, I'm grateful that I was home with her and my siblings were there and we were able to just to like, be with her by herself, as opposed to now we have to drive to a hospital or hear from it and kind of fly in town. So I was just grateful that, hey, it happened like it was supposed to happen. We were there. We learned so much from her. We knew that, she's in a better place. She didn't want to suffer. She lived her life to the fullest. So that's like literally what she passed down. Like, even though she's not here, we get to honor her. Like my mom's middle name is my niece's first name. So we're able to honor her that way, and she acts like your mom sometimes, or, oh, you look like your mom, so it's just that part of that bond and that legacy that will continue even though she's not here.
Yeah, and it is all about legacy. Like in those
Right.
situations, like how our story is a little bit different. My mom had cancer 4 times. And so in between the second and third, I started having anxiety attacks. So Yaps knew, a lot of my friends knew that certain environments I couldn't be in, not necessarily because of grief. It was just, I was in this space of the come back and then it, like, we're over
Right.
it, then it comes back,
Right.
over it
Right.
and come back. And that was very triggering for me. But the thing is that even in the midst of 4 diagnoses, this woman still went back and got her PhD.
See,
And then
you're like, listen, I'm over here. I can't even graduate from high school now. So, but it's just like, but it shows that, like, but again, a lot of times it's your support system and your internal drive, regardless of, let's say somebody trying to push somebody to do something. If it's not internally there, why would I go to school? I've got to deal with this. It was like, I'm going to show you that, hey, in the midst of whatever you're going through, small or big, you can still push through and do something that you really want to do, or that you've been putting off, So, yeah, I love that.
yeah, and so it makes you present to, like, again, the lessons that we learn while we're watching them go through that battle and the fight, and them feeling optimistic, them still not being in this destitute of it. And I think that that is also part of when you're in your quote unquote caregiver stage of life. And the thing is like I was sharing with Yaps before, is like we're in what we call, or what people call, the sandwich era, where we are in the space of having to possibly take care of parents, not because they're ill or anything. They're just getting in a point where they're needing help a little bit more. And then for those that have kids, are taking care of kids. So you're always being pulled in either direction. And the thing about it is, like, when we're dealing with that, it's like, how am I able to show up positively while I'm supporting my
Right.
because the thing is like, if we're not finding moments to be grateful, like, that is, like, I think that that's the key to the loss, is like being grateful of being able to look back and like realize, like, there's some people that literally don't have those great moments and those memories of their family or
That
their
is true.
parent.
That is true.
Like, there are literally some people that don't have those moments. And it's not, I think when we shift and think about, like, wow, I do have these great moments. Like, I know that you can probably say this, but I know for myself, like, I know for a fact my mom loved me and
Right.
cared for me
Yep.
and would do
I wanted the best for
anything
you.
for
Yep.
me.
We'll do
Yeah.
anything. I want the best for you too. Yep.
Yeah, and like that is what can be probably one of the most fulfilling moments, like to not have to have any doubts about how they felt about you.
Right.
Do you feel as if there was anything that you wish you would have said or done or anything like that?
No, but like, of course now, was actually almost 6 years, almost 5 years later. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so pretty much, just, sometimes I reflect like, man, I wish my mom would have been here for X, Y, and Z. But I also know like she would have smiled at what I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
Or, wish she could have met my boyfriend, or I could have met, his dad, who unfortunately passed some years ago. But it's like, we know that just based off the relationship that we had, that they wanted the best, they're happy for us, smiling down, like, okay, they're living the life that I knew they were gonna live. So,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, probably would have told her like, oh, like, don't worry, I'll be okay. You and dad equipped me to where,
Mhm.
so I can pretty much get to where I need to get to, and still have a discerning mind, and still be open and friendly, and the same person I was before she passed.
Mhm.
But all I could do is just live life and know that she will be proud of these steps I'm taking, or like this next phase of my life. So,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, because I even had some people ask me that question. I'm like, no, like, I'm like,
I
but
said everything, girl.
like
Right.
she knew I was her ride or die. Like, but then I think too, it might be because of the people that we are
Hmm.
and how we show up for our family members. Um, and here's the thing too, is like, yeah, we're years out of it,
Hmm.
6 years for myself, but
Right.
even still, there's not those regrets. Like there are moments where you're like, man, I wish I could share this,
Yep,
or
that
like,
part. Right.
and those are the like learning how, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in this conversation, is understanding like what are those triggers, how do we reframe, because that's a part of it, is like reframing. How do I celebrate this, or where do I go for this? Because especially for those of us that have centered relationships with the individuals we lose, it's like those life experiences are still going to happen. So
Of course.
you're not going to just sit here and be like, oh, when something good happens, I'm not going to tell nobody. I mean, you could
Right.
sit in
Right.
that,
Right.
but I'm not going to say that that's going to be the most healthy and
Right.
productive
Right.
ways of
Right.
handling the rest of your life. But yeah, I had someone ask, like, do you have any regrets? I'm like, no. Like,
Right. Yeah. She knew, they knew, and we knew. So it was like,
mm-hmm,
because guess what? Who knows if the way we feel like we're thriving right now, what if it happened? Let's say if they were still alive, who knows? We
mm-hmm,
may have been still taking care of them, or we may have to move. So
yeah,
you just never know what God's plan is.
mm-hmm,
Living in the moment and having these different experiences. Like, okay, I can't tell her, but I
mm-hmm,
can tell my aunt, I can tell my close friend, I can tell my
yeah,
business partner. So, or I can pray and tell her, or I can go to her gravesite and
yeah.
tell her. So, yeah,
Yeah, that was for me, like, I was actually in Landmark. For those of you that have never heard of Landmark
me
Forum,
as
it's a
well.
transformation. I know you resent it too. So, and that might also be too, I mean, and we're both Christians, so both of those, I think also contribute to our perspective on some of this stuff. But I remember I was in a seminar at that specific time period, and one of the things I had to get into was the fact that I don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
Inside of Landmark, they tell you, what do you choose? In life, you get a ability to choose what you want to like actually feel as if is the truth. And in those moments, it was like I chose to, because I was my mom's caregiver. We knew that she was terminal, on the fourth one, because where it was in her brain, it was essentially, it was in her breast and then eventually went to her
Right.
brain.
Mhm.
Um, so we knew that they said 5 to 6 months that it would be. And some people like, oh, I don't like when they tell you. I'm like, honestly, I mean, it's
They
not
just,
going to, I
yeah, it
mean,
doesn't. They can say 2 days. I mean, you can hear that, but you can also choose to let me really like spend more time, because it could be
yeah.
5 to 6 weeks. So,
Exactly. So it's like I
right.
can either, like, for me, I felt like I was on borrowed time,
Mhm.
because like my mom was in Louisiana, for those
Yeah.
who are listeners, and I was in DC. So I was nowhere near my mom. And when she was diagnosed with cancer that was in her brain and it was in her spine, like, so the science is sciencing. So we
Right.
very present to it. And so one of the things for me was like, if they hadn't found it in her brain, they said that because the amount of pressure that was building up on her brain, she would have died in a few days if she hadn't had that emergency surgery.
Mhm.
So for me, I was in gratitude that they even
Right.
found it,
Right.
because if I would have just found that she was, because it's not like with Yap, she could have drove, or I mean, she was,
Right.
even her husband, like there were more
Right.
bodies that would have noticed something was wrong, where my
Right.
mom was in a whole different state, that
Mhm.
if something would have happened to her in her house, it would have been by chance someone would have found her.
Right.
And that to me would have been a lot more harder to process in life compared to knowing that the person that I love was terminally ill. So I went down there as a caregiver for 6 months, to kind of be in a space of like every moment we have together is a blessing, because if it would have happened another way, there wouldn't have been that time. So I think for my grief, I was able to look at it from a space of gratitude, of God's love, so that a lot of things that may have been open, where we had the time to heal and
Right.
have conversations and also bring her peace, because like you being in the house and going on appointments,
Right.
that part too is reassuring for them. Like I think for most parents, if they don't say it, I feel like people have children for different reasons, but also you want to raise a decent human being.
No, but like my mom used to say, like, they took care of you. So, and especially the thing is, when you have a close relationship with your parents, you want to do this
Yes.
if you're able to. Of
Yeah.
course, if you're stationed, let's say, in a foreign country, and let's say you're a military member, and they're like, listen, you know, unless they're on their deathbed, you have to stay here, as opposed to, hey, I can at least go down for 6 months because I have the kind of business you have, or, I'm in the same state anyway, so I can just, do I want to move, so I can be here, as opposed to now I have somebody randomly pick me up and take me that I don't know. And it's probably not as comforting as doing it with somebody you know.
And then that's what sometimes is what is the part that because with cancer or illness in general, one of the things I find with parents is that there's this, and you can share from your perspective. I find that they're in this space of like they still want to parent and they don't want you to parent them. But the thing is that they still are appreciative that you're there, because they're like parents, even if it's not cancer, like parents, they don't like it if a kid's telling them what to do. Like they're like, I'm old,
Right.
I'm an adult, I'm your parent,
Right,
I
right,
can
right,
put
right,
you in this
right.
world, I can take you out of this world. So like when you're in this caregiving space though, one of the things that I find that actually encourages them more is that they want to be strong for you. Like that's that, like they're pushing
And
forward.
you want to be strong for them.
Yeah, so it's like this
It's like,
space of like they're like, I like my child is here. Like I feel
right,
like
right,
that gives them something to push forward through, where
right,
I get it that everyone doesn't have the ability, like for yourself, like to move in and take care of,
right,
or even for myself to move, out of the
right.
state
Yep,
to take care.
right,
But honestly, that is so valuable for your parent, because what the hard part about getting older or getting ill is not feeling like you're a burden to people, and or they feel as if they're alone.
hmm
And when you have family members that are able to be there, I feel like that gives them something to push forward for,
right,
so that they keep going, compared to just being in a house by
right,
themselves
right.
and
And
being
I have another
depressed.
appointment. I'm just watching TV. I don't feel, and then they probably will not feel like eating or going out because
Hmm.
they're like. But again, when my I said my grand, when my niece was born, it was like, okay, I have a grandchild. I get to love on her. Even if I'm tired or my back is hurting, okay, I can still push through because that'll brighten my day up. So
Yeah, it gives them something to push forward towards.
right.
And I kind of I said like we both are like multiple years out of
Mhm.
the loss, but for you, what was your grief journey like, if you remember?
Hmm. It was more so like, wow, this is really happening. But on the same time, wow, we need to plan a funeral and, um, sort through her clothes and close banks and, whatever insurances and policies and stuff that she had, make sure those were like in proper order.
Hmm.
So I think a couple of months before she passed, me, my dad, and lawyer, I think we I forgot what we had to sign. Power of attorney, I think
Yes,
we
power attorney. Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, it's getting real, of course. And then when she ended up passing, it was like, okay, accounts and her affairs and everything like that. And now we have to notify people in Nigeria,
Hmm.
her Kaiser Permanente family, her CVS pharmacy family, because she was a pharmacist for so long. So notifying everyone, and even some people didn't even know she had cancer. They were like, "Oh, we used to see her at the pharmacy, all the time, and we never knew anything, So it was just that, and then like, okay, now some downtime. Like, wow, she was really not here. She's not gonna, let's say, see me have a child or get married or get the next job or promotion or whatever the case may be. So it was more so just reflecting on like I'm glad at least she saw that. What was it like? 34 35 years of life at the time, or 36.
Yeah.
And like she was happy with all my accomplishments, from sports to business to jobs to other businesses to just who I was becoming. And so it was more so just like more so reflection, sadness, like, yeah, I had faith. So it wasn't like I was blaming God or anything, but I was just grateful for the time we had.
Yeah.
And then of course, like my friends and stuff, like, wow, like I can't believe you're doing X, Y, and Z. Like, if I would lose a parent, I would have been X, Y, and Z or did this. And, planning the funeral stuff. We even, kind of had a laugh or two. And when we were at the funeral home getting her casket, me, my siblings, and my dad, and the guy was like, you can tell that, you guys are somewhat at peace with it because you guys are like, like enjoying, like, just make sure you're sending your mom off properly. So it was more so, you know, you know, after the fact that, oh, a song will come on, I'm like, man, that's a song she used to sing all the time.
Yeah.
Or I'll hear like somebody talking about, oh yeah, I remember your mom helped me with this and got that. Something like, yeah, she got a lot of people some jobs working in a pharmacy with her.
Yeah.
As their first job. So, I'll have those happy moments, or I'm looking at videos from Thanksgivings when we all used to come to my parents' house and have fun, dance. So I'll look at videos like I might tear up or like laugh and smile and just like, like she enjoyed life, So
Yeah.
I have my moments even still, like I'm like, man, she's not here, but I can, if I want to, go talk to her anytime I want, or even go visit her gravesite.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, I mean, you always grieve, but you get through it by, I feel like I gotten through it by videos and pictures and just being able to like be happy at the life I have now, because she built me up to having this life, right?
Yeah.
And she showed me that, hey, yeah, my ankle could be twisted or something, but does that mean I should skip the gym and not even just go do something upper body, So it's like, I never really used to make excuses, but it's like, you don't have to even make any really excuse. I mean, any excuse for anything. Like, you can do something, or even if it's a little bit. So that's why I feel like my nation now is, I don't want to hear no excuse. It's all where there's a will, there's a way. I just never been big on people giving excuses, but at this point, I'm like, listen, I saw my mom doing a lot of stuff that some people won't even do if they weren't even sick.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. So, it just brings joy that I was able to grieve through it, smile, be happy, get emotional. No anger really, but it was just more so like, wow, she won't be here for a lot of things that she might have been asked, like, we ain't gonna get married, we ain't gonna have a kid. This, I said, since you're a praying woman, just pray that's coming soon, So, but yeah, it's like good grief now, like I can reflect back on things like, oh, she would have loved this or she would have did that. Right.
Yeah. And I think some people sometimes feel they want to rush through the process. Like whenever I have people that know, like my mom passed, they're like, how long did it take? And I'm like, you're asking the wrong, like, if you're asking me how long, like, I'm like, that tells me you're completely avoiding whatever you are feeling right now, because it's not a thing that just happens. Like I would say probably in the last year, I feel a little bit more out of the fog. And it wasn't for me. I worked with a grief counselor, and I probably will start not necessarily with a grief counselor, but a therapist again. Because one of the things that we realized was I wasn't necessarily impacted by the grief. I was impacted by the multiple occasions. And then the pandemic happened. So I had a lot of things that were taken from me, and then my business fell. And, a lot of major life things. Like I moved to an area I never would.
Right.
And I still don't want to be here, if I had to be honest. I'm just here for cheap rent. So it's one of the things is that I lost a lot of my identities. And so when I was working with a grief counselor, it was really to help me with being hopeful again, because all of these unexpected things. So I remember after my mom passed, and again, because it was terminal, like I went down. So we already had a lot of things in order. So when she finally passed, for me, I was like at peace in a space of like, because caregiving for someone and caregiving for someone that has cancer in the brain are
Right.
two. I mean, so
And somebody that you love.
yeah,
You
this,
know, some people whose job this is their job, they're used to it,
yeah,
but rarely are they caregiving for their actual parent or loved one. So it's like, this is somebody I love that now I'm helping, like a nurse, you know,
yeah,
in the role of nurse, because we don't have medical backgrounds.
yes,
So but yeah, it's like you said, it's a, like they said, sometimes also we think about the patient, but sometimes not the caregiver.
yes,
So yeah, because you need, you know, you need a mental break sometimes. You need somebody to, hey, can you just come sit with my mom or something? I just need to go walking or something like that.
yeah.
So sometimes you forget to like have that self care for you during the time that you're caring for somebody else.
Yeah, and it's seeing how someone's shifting and changing. Like I remember towards the end because I think that she was masking some of the pain and discomfort in front of me because of the size of, the pressure and different things. But it's called sundowners. So at nighttime, it would be more of a shift with her personality and things of that nature. And I remember one of the last incidents when we were in the hospital, like she was upset at me for something. I don't remember what. And I remember I was like in tears, and her doctor then comes to me and she's like, Jesse, I need for you to really understand, like, that's not your mom anymore.
Right.
She's like, your mom wouldn't be yelling at you.
Oh, see, yeah, right.
And so it was one of those things that you start to separate the person that you love from the person because they're not the same. Like you'll have those
Yeah,
glimmers
your
of,
parent, your mom or dad or parent or sibling is not the illness. It's just the
yes,
illness can affect them in a way that, of course, you're not used to in the
yeah,
40 plus, you know, in the years that we've, you know, well, 30 something years that
years
we, you
back
know,
then. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, oh, this is, you actually right, because whatever I did, she probably wouldn't have yelled at me before. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was good that they did that.
Yeah, and so then at
Right.
that point, you're just like you're because you know that this transition is happening. So it almost prepared me to, and this, like I would say that incident probably happened maybe 2 weeks before she passed away.
Mm.
So like we're at the end of this cycle. So when she finally passed, I remember I just went to sleep. I was like tired because with by then I had to have someone come at nighttime that was
Okay.
to help watch, and then some her friends would come and help alleviate some of it because we were home hospice. So
Mhm.
I was taking care of her by myself. So like that's
Right.
kind of like the downfall to being an only child. But then it was a blessing because you're
Mhm.
not dealing with everyone else's interpretation.
Yeah, we should do this for mom. Oh, she
Yeah.
wouldn't. I'm like,
I didn't
man, I
have to
done been
do
here the
anything.
whole time. Now you came in town and trying to like, no, like, yeah, but you know, I'm grateful. My brother's a pharmacist, sister's a nurse. So you know, I used to sleep on the couch that was in front of her bed because we
Yeah.
did home hospice on the first floor of our house. So I'm like, must have, okay, yeah, I'm here, whatever, you know, go downstairs to go to sleep so you can, you know, wake up in like 4 hours and go to work. So, you know,
Yeah.
it helps that when you have help, you know, so you
Yeah.
can kind of, you know, have some time to yourself,
Self,
right?
yeah, but it's like I was telling people like the best thing was like so after she passed, I remember I just slept, and the other part that was good was because with us we already knew it was terminal, so I didn't have to. And I always tell friends, I'm like, I am not telling you that your family member is about to pass today or tomorrow. But one of the best things was that I already knew where she banked. We had everything in place because
Right.
that's what
That's that.
adds for a lot of people extra stress is
Mhm.
not knowing these things. And so you're in a space of heavy grief because it's new. And then you possibly have other outsiders that
Right.
are putting their grief and
Right.
experience into it. So that's
Right.
why sometimes death and loss brings out the ugly side of people, is because
Right.
they're all processing in different ways. Where for me, I only really had to worry about how I was processing, even though my mom has siblings. And the good part was that my aunt, she's a funeral home director, and my mom already was like, hey, when it happens, this is what I
You just
want.
see.
And so I didn't even have to do any of that stuff. So, and we just kind of
Yeah.
let her do what she wanted. I mean, the only thing I had requested and my mom had requested is that she wanted to be cremated. And so
Mhm.
outside of that, I'm like, cool, whatever. She sent me photos of whatever. And I was like, cool, that's fine. And everything else was, I didn't have to worry about. But I tell people that's after she passed for me, it was one of those things that it was a relief because I saw her struggling so much. Like you don't want to see your family
Right.
member fighting like 4
Right.
times. Like, this
You
is
don't you
over
don't want to see
10.
them fight, and also you don't want to see them like pass away. So it's like,
Yeah.
but that, like you said, the pain, them masking it. I know you're in the back pain, but you have to. So it's like,
Yeah.
and also you're like, wow, like okay, now I can finally catch up on rest and like
Yes.
pour back into myself, because you're thinking about, family member, family member, family member. Like, okay, then think of me, family member. Oh, me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it like you said, you slept because you were like, wow, okay, now this next phase will begin. But at least you were
Yeah.
able to like, okay, I can, not in a bad way, but like finally get some sleep, as opposed to maybe sleep every 2 hours because maybe she's waking up or the caregiver came after open the door for them,
Yes.
or something, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then because of the sundowners, like I had to learn, because if she saw keys in her purse, she would think it's more daytime. And so I knew, though, because of how it was, she would never just walk out the house about her shoes on. So I would at nighttime hide the shoes, hide the keys, hide things. So she might walk around and be like, "Oh, Jesse, we need to go to the library." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Why we need to go to the library?" She's like, "Because." And eventually she'll forget. So if she
Right.
didn't have those things that would trigger her,
Okay.
it would go away. But with grief, it's one of those things, like I feel that if you need a grief counselor, get one. Like, and how do you know you need one? Because it's been on your mind.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like when you're feeling that you need it, and nothing's wrong with it. And I think sometimes, there's
Maybe it's a
this,
stigma around it. It's a stigma around getting help from anybody other than your
yes,
family. And your
yeah,
family probably the main one who like, this is what I needed because y'all.
stressing me out. Like,
Right.
stressing me out. And the thing is, it's like, don't take on anyone else's grief. Like, I knew there were some people
Listen.
in the family that they had some unfinished. Like, if I asked them, do they have anything that they wish they would definitely have some
Oh
things
yeah,
to
I
say.
have a lot now. So let me get my list out because I've been waiting for this, but
Like, because they had a lot of unfinished business. And I think that's the hardest part sometimes about grief, is that you're in your own space, but then other people are either putting their grief, or you're having to
right.
deal with other people's
Right.
reaction to
Right.
the grief. And it
I
can,
don't want her to get cremated. I want to ask me like, I know what she wanted. Like we talked, like
yeah, I know. 'Cause my aunt, still to this day, random moments, she like, I'm still upset that y'all didn't. I was like, cool. However, that's not what she wanted, and that would have provided me no closure. And it's like,
Excuse me.
we would have made her look good. I'm like, and still, yeah,
I'm just letting you know once again, like I did years ago, but
yeah,
everybody wants the best for it, and or what they think. Like I know she would have wanted this, but
mhm,
because some people don't have direct orders or things like that. So my mama had D&D. Like if I you know my heart stops, don't
yeah.
resuscitate me and stuff like that. But it's like we want to, but okay, you have to do honor your parent at that time.
Yeah,
So
because you have to, honoring their request is like, because it's, and that's where I think with grief is like, you're wanting to hold on to the past. Like, it's this weird space that we can be in, and that's why it's not a perfect transition. Is And everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. So one of the things I do want to ask you is like, how has your relationship shifted, like with either family or just in your day to day since your mom has passed? Like how you mentioned about good things that happen. How has that shifted in your
I
life?
mean, it's the same because again, we used to, share all accomplishments, and I'm super close to my siblings, so we're still super close.
Mhm.
I mean, we may probably reach out more or FaceTime more or, send messages in the family chat, but we were close before she passed. So, the aunties and everybody, oh, checking on you, oh, I miss your mom, this, that, third. So just still having close relationships with everybody. And them mom was like, man, I miss your mom. Oh, she did this, or hearing news stories and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
day to day is more so, oh, she would have loved having fun or watching this or looking at this pageant or
Yeah.
oh, the Commanders are winning, right? Because she said, oh, the Redskins pissing me off because they used to, lose and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
now she's like, oh my gosh, but she would have been like going crazy and yelling and screaming at these games just like I do now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and and it's good though. Is like, I find that when I do speak to people, they find that certain relationships, they possibly talk a little bit more. Like for myself, there's a family member who was helping me. She lived in a different city inside of Louisiana. So she would
Mhm.
come every couple of weeks and help relieve me as well. So
Okay.
she's kind of turned into like my makeshift mom. So if she don't hear from me in like 5 days, she's like, where are
Hey, what's
you?
going on?
What's going on? And so I had to start allowing people to hold different spaces for me. I can either be in a space of like, no one's there. I'm in the world by myself because I have a
Mm.
relationship with my dad, but
Not
it's,
as it was with your mom.
yeah, nowhere
Every
near.
relationship is gonna be different with the mom and dad. I feel like I don't care if
Mhm.
you have it's one sibling or whatever. If you are in touch with your mom and dad, everybody's gonna have that certain relationship with them or like favor them more for this or
Yeah.
I'm used to talking about this with them, or now I have to maybe talk about my dad or talk to somebody else who
Yeah.
maybe won't judge us like our mom would have. We would have told her the same thing, like, well,
Yeah.
why did it's like so.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll still miss the judgment or anything like that, but it's the relationships are always going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
it's allowing the space. Like my
yeah.
aunt, her sister, like I'm intentionally in Texas because
Mhm.
like she's going close to 80.
Yeah.
And so I have a routine every day, every Sunday after church. I go and sit and talk to her and we just
Mhm.
hang out. And if I haven't stopped to her house for more than one Sunday, she's like, Jesse, where are
Mhm.
you? I haven't
And you're
seen
playing no
you.
games.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like I had to be in a space of like I can either choose to feel like I'm in the world alone or I can
Right.
actually allow for people to still show love in the way in which they can show love. And that's a reframing that has really helped me not feel the heaviness of grief
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
sometimes what the biggest part about grief is like people take on feeling alone
Mhm.
and not realizing like you have a whole community that's around you.
Right.
But are you
And
going
people who
to
have
let
lost
them?
before. Yeah, people have lost before. But your aunt also lost a sister. So now
Yeah.
she's grieving, but now she's like, oh man, I have to be here for not in a bad way, but oh man, I have to be here for Jesse because that's
Mhm.
her daughter. So
Mhm.
yeah, we forget that. Yeah, we're grieving, but then even the support system who's around us, they have to experience loss
Yeah.
at possibly at some point, or their siblings who's still alive, like, wow, I wish I was there. And this so it's like it's that compound effect of everybody is grieving, but and also everybody's grieving, how they are going to grieve, but then it's a village too. So lean on those who are able to, be leaned on.
Yes. So one of the things I'm curious about is about keeping someone's memory alive. Have you thought about, or is that something you even think about? How do you keep your mom's memory alive today? Is that something that you think about?
I mean, I talk about her. Oh, my mom used to do this, or she did this, and I
Hmm.
have pictures on the wall
Hmm.
of her holding my niece, and her birthday party, and when she went to Ireland the same year she passed. So
Yeah.
it just is made and videos and pictures, right? So and then of course honor her on Mother's Day,
Yeah.
or her birthday. Just with like, oh, what are my favorite pictures I want to share with the world today or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, I love that. I'm the same way. And my mom, I remember when she first did it, I was like, what in the world is this woman doing? She
Mhm.
sent me, which I thought now I'm so grateful that she did it, was that she would send me random videos of encouragement.
Mhm.
And they would just say, Jesse, I remember when one of the videos is talking about my birth story.
Mhm.
And like that was something I keep and I'm going to always keep. And then talking about
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
she always loved me. Like those are the things that like you're like, man, when I first got the first video, I was like, what in the world is she doing? But then it hit me. It's like, wow, she wants me to remember her.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like that's something that I'm very open and I talk to people about like people like you just talk so freely. I'm like because my mom is still like amazing. Like and it doesn't help to not talk about her. So I
Right.
think by keeping someone's memory alive, it looks different for each one of us. But
Right.
I think it's important to really embrace the good things, to embrace the memories, embrace you experiencing that person, especially for those of us that have really great experiences with people,
Mhm.
because there are individuals that cannot say or feel that way. Like,
Yeah, that's true. So
you
that's why I'm
know,
always grateful. I stay in gratitude, but it's like I'm glad we had the relationship we did have, and I was there, and I can look at videos and pictures that we did fortunately take while she was alive. So,
hmm,
and then of course, but she used to always send random videos on WhatsApp. I'm like, Mom, you send me these videos. You didn't respond to my message, but you sent me two more videos. So I'll call like, hello, did you see my message? So yeah, but again, like just remembering like, oh wow, she used to send me these so I can look at it anytime.
yeah.
or even look at the chat history.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, which is crazy. I still have her number in my phone and stuff. And of course, sometimes they get the number away. So it literally popped up on my phone one day, like mom is calling. I was like, wow, of course I knew it was her, but I said,
Yeah.
wow, it was
Yeah.
just crazy to see that, on my phone.
I love that. I love that. So one of the things I do want to know is like for you, what's something you've learned about grief that you didn't expect to understand or know beforehand?
I would say it's ongoing, right? And it doesn't have to be a bad thing because you reflect through grief, and then you remember like, wow, I remember when this happened. So it's like a time of reflection, no matter how long it's going to be. And of course, one day you might, wow, like I had a wonderful year. I really didn't think about her passing or something, or holidays come around. It's like, oh, we're gonna have fun this holiday just like we used to when my mom was alive. So just reflection, reflection through the grief and over the years. Again, it was funny. She used to sing the 21 Savage song a lot, and I think she heard it on the radio or something. But every time that song comes on, it's on my playlist. But every time it will come on, I'm like thinking of my mom again. So some people know that that's the song she used to sing a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But and I was like, every time I hear it, I'm like, I smile because I'm like, oh, my mom's here with me.
One of the songs that my mom liked, and you remember the Kiki challenge by Drake? Hey Kiki,
Do you love
we're driving. I mean, this is during the time period I'm taking care of her before,
right?
like earlier in the process. And this is when this trend was big. And one of the days we're driving and that song comes on the car. She's like, Jesse, you should open the door. I can get out and do the challenge.
That's funny.
And I'm like, lady, no.
That's funny. See, a memory like that, like those moments is like I can laugh at it years later. Like
Yeah.
that's a funny moment. Like so
Yes, for sure. So, next part of I really wanted us to dig into is like I feel like there's no right or wrong thing, but I feel like there can be always awkward conversations with people after loss. What do you wish people would stop saying to someone who's grieving?
maybe that they're in a better place, or like I don't know, maybe that they're in a better place. I guess because if it happened suddenly, then we're like, no, they're not in a better place. So I don't think people would say that,
Yeah.
but more so maybe they knew they had an illness. We know they're in a better place, so we don't really need you to tell us that.
Yeah.
But again, every loved one wants to be selfish, so a better place would still be here on earth with us. So but they're in a better place is probably the main
biggest.
one.
And
Right.
and it's hard to like I feel like grief what would be the best like that's the part about it is like what's the
Right.
best thing
To kind
uh
of like, yeah.
is it to say I feel like sometimes it's like I'm sorry for your loss, how can I help you, or is there anything you want to like I don't know like
Yeah, I mean, but even they're in a better place. Of course, if they've been suffering, of course, that relative things. But even like, oh, how can I help? Or do you need anything? Like, I'm serious. If you need anything, because people used to say that to me, but I'm like, what would I need? But my mom being back, right? So some people, like one of our mutual friends, Sade, her mom cooked lasagna for us. I used to tell my best friend, "Oh, call me or text me to make sure I ate today." We know because even if I'm intermittent fast or not, sometimes I would like, "Oh, darn, I need to eat. It's 2 p.m." So
yeah
just how can I support you? And or if you talk to them and hear that I don't know, I didn't feel like getting out of bed, or oh, I ate super late. So now you kind of maybe put in your mind like, oh well, let me randomly send them messages like, oh, make sure you eat, love you, thinking of you, or hey, wanted to go to the gym, which my friend used to take me to the gym sometimes, and we'll meet up at the gym. So just things like that. Sometimes people don't feel like cooking. They don't feel like mowing the grass or walking the dog. So you can do things like that. Hey, I don't mind helping you walk the dog, or I don't mind helping you send a cleaner there or cleaning or get food delivery. So just things like that probably will help out a lot.
Yeah, or even just say if you need to ever talk, I'm here for you. Like I feel
Mhm.
like the worst thing you can do is one, push your perception of grief onto the person. Like,
And how you think,
yeah,
right? What should be
exactly. Just
acting right.
fine. And even if you do ask, like if there's anything and they don't know, that might be also where they are in that process. Because like I
Mhm.
think the biggest thing is allowing people the space to grieve and supporting them however that is, but just having
Right.
conversation and community. And I think sometimes it's not even the initial reaction. I think sometimes it can be the months after because people don't necessarily It's like right the month, like the upcoming, like the few weeks after the person passed, like people are present. But I don't feel that sometimes like the months after, people are no longer talking or checking in because, it's almost all already gone. Um, so one of the things I would want to know is like for you, if you know someone, we actually know a few people right now. What advice would you give to someone with supporting a grieving friend?
I would say, of course, don't forget to check on them. A lot of my friends text me, oh, I know it's Mother's Day, or I know your mom's birthday is coming up. So a lot of friends still messaging me years later, right? Which is sweet, because some friends don't, which I'm not expecting anybody to do anything, but it's just sweet. Like, oh, they remembered, or, oh, maybe a picture popped up on Facebook memories. They're like, oh, wow, this is around the time Ali passed. So yeah, just, yeah, like you said, ask them how can you support them, right? Not how you think that they should be supported. Because some people, like I'm the kind of person probably like, I don't want you coming over here and now I have to entertain you, but I really just want to relax and watch TV, maybe, and kind of just be by myself. Because some people assume that social butterflies or people who are extroverts always want people around them, which is not the case. I actually like being alone, and like even before she was passed, I like my own space and time. And so just like giving them space, but also, hey, I'm checking on you. If you ever want to go walk, we don't have to say anything, let me know. Or if you ever want to just come over and sit, I cook something, or I'll come up, so just realize that there's many ways to support somebody, and even people close to them who knew this person. And even with my jewelry business that I own, I've made so many breast cancer awareness bracelets. And I recently became a board member on this nonprofit that I'm on the board of. So, and that supports breast cancer patients. So, and their families. So I'm like, I wish we had something like this for us, even though we had a tight knit community and family that supported us. But I said, wow, this lady who beat breast cancer twice created this organization, and now they give baskets and gift cards and what do you call these things? Air fryers to like women who beat breast cancer or their family or something like that. So imagine just having that for every kind of cancer organization that could support that way. So it's like, wow, like some people use that tragedy into something being something positive, right? And you can support by even maybe looking up. Some people don't want to go to no grief counseling thing. I know I can still get emails from my church that grief ministry, this, that, and third, but I'm just like, I've grieved through it, came on out on the other side, and feel like I'm doing good and still doing what I love, and knowing that, oh, she would have loved this too. But yeah, just making sure that the support is there, or even look up like, oh, how like they have different platforms we can search. Oh, how can I support somebody who lost a parent from this kind of cancer, or who was a caregiver, or who wasn't living in the same state when they passed? So you can do a quick Google, or search device, and get kind of tips on, wow, this is a smart thing to do, as opposed to pushing myself on them when they may want to just have time to themselves, since it was all this coming at once and all this planning that they had to do.
Yeah. And I think it's also just monitoring behaviors. Like, I think that it's because sometimes what it is like people are pushing what they think your process should be, or because of that was their process. I think it's just monitoring behaviors. Like, if you're finding like this person might be more in seclusion, like figuring out, do they just need that space? Like, I think that that's like that awareness of your friend. It's not, I don't want them ever by themselves. Like, because what we'll do is mask, like, because we don't want to show how we're really feeling, and sometimes when we do have these expressions, it's because it's so bottled up. So I think it's finding that balance of like seeing when, just to check in, just say like, hey, how's everything going, to be able to encourage them, or do something fun, or do something that's going to help them. But I think it's also understanding to ask them, like, if they're aware of what's a trigger. Like, I after my mom passed, I got very present to boundaries I had to start, because I would say not necessarily because she passed, but because of the panic attacks and the anxiety attacks I was having while she was still alive. So we had to work on what are the things that make me feel overwhelmed. And so if I'm always available for people, like, that's not good. Like, so I have that my do not disturb goes on my phone at 7 and it doesn't come on to 8 o'clock. Or I have time blocking. Like, I'm probably more anal retentive about my time than anything at this point, because if I feel pressure, then it ripples into other things. So like, often what you'll find too is sometimes when people are reacting, they're not necessarily always reacting to that thing, they're reacting to other things that are happening.
Right.
So I think for people that are trying to support individuals with grief is take off what you think that that person should be doing and just sit and hold space with that individual to however they're processing what
Mhm.
they're going through. And that's not, and then I think too is like understand like if this person is starting to drink a lot more or drug it or they're doing
Mhm.
self-destructive things, I mean, you might want to
Yeah, I mean,
intervene.
yeah, because some people remember everybody literally, I don't care if you're a twin, you're
Hmm.
gonna cope differently from your twin.
Hmm.
Siblings, family members. So again, like you said, give them a space, but also like you said, kind of like be aware that, they could be suffering in silence.
Hmm.
I recently lost my hairstylist, I think it was last year around Mother's Day because she had lost her mom from cancer, unfortunately. And I would think she was fine. That's her dad and siblings. Oh yeah, she'll say she's fine, but she wasn't.
Hmm.
So just always make sure that if it kind of things can make people depressed if they're not already suffering from depression,
Yeah.
but check in as much, not overwhelm the person, but check in, as much as you can.
Hmm.
But like just really like pay attention to them in the months following like a major loss, whether it's a job or a family member,
Yes.
or even a dog sometimes,
Yeah.
or or their house or something, or a house fire. So you just never know what could possibly trigger somebody to depression, or maybe
Yes.
they overcame it, but then now something brought them back to it.
Yeah, because those
So
are all life triggers,
right.
those are all life triggers. And it might not be something that's big to you, but it's big to that person. So it's important for us to just be present and cognizant of those things. And then also learn to not take things as personally as well, because I feel that we're all going through different things, especially once we're at this age period. Like it's almost in a space of like I feel like the every day you're just in a space of like, okay, I'm gonna show up for the people I love. I'm gonna do the best because you just never
Right.
know. Like my aunt that has a funeral home, her son passed away in November. And mind you, she's a funeral home director. She's been dealing with death for like 50 years. Like I go to the
Right.
funeral home and she's been doing this, but even still for her that was a hard experience. So like while she was
Right.
going through her grief period, like pretty much like every other day I was going to her house and we were watching TV, and then I'll let her share whenever she wanted to talk about
Right.
it
That's
because
sometimes sit with them and just see if they even feel like sharing. And it might
mhm,
be 5 visits and then okay, oh Jesse, I'm not having a good day today. So
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what would happen. Like she'll just like, some like and she loves Tyler Perry shows and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." And so one of our cousins was like, "And nothing about what he does is anything that you even want to consume." But that was the L I was taking to be there for my aunt.
Share support, right.
The support. Like, would I watch these shows on my personal own? No.
Right.
But I was going and we'll just sit there and watch. And then at some random moment, she'll be like, sometimes I just really think about them. And then
Mhm.
I would not put like my viewpoints or anything. I would just let her share. And I think that's
Right.
the part about grief too, is like holding space. Like it's, if they don't want to talk about it, they don't talk about it. And I think that was
Right.
sometimes the hardest part for her with everyone else is like, they want to just like, oh my gosh, she was so good. Like they're just, and so then it's not even allowing you to feel what you want to feel because you're
Mhm.
having to filter through everyone else's grief. And that
Right.
sometimes
Right.
can be the hardest part is just hang. Like I don't like, I know the person's gone, but every conversation I have doesn't have to be about that person
Right.
being away, and that's
Right.
part of the grief process too. So I think that that's important for anyone that has a family member or friend that's going through grief, or you might be personally going through grief right now. Learning how to communicate that, I think, is important. And then also knowing what are those safe spaces,
Right.
because every place isn't going to be a safe space to talk about loss or the
That part. Like
encouragement or advice or reflection.
social media sometimes can overwhelm you. So
Hmm.
just get off of it. You're right. Tell people, hey, I'm doing good, but I'm just taking a little break from my, I feel like that kind of helps. Or hey, we just lost my family. The family wants to, let us grieve, for a
Hmm.
little,
Yes.
give us time. Or even you talked about just holding space for somebody. Some people just want you to be there, and some people really don't want you to come over. But oh yeah, I'm coming over because I'm
Yeah.
okay. If you're the one of those people who don't ask to come over, or you say, "Oh yeah, I want to." You ask me, it's like, "Hey, what you doing Saturday? I want to come over." You don't even give them a space. Say, "What you doing Saturday? Are you up for company?" Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they could be up for company, but they just don't want no one there right now, or even you
Yeah.
you may have lost somebody. Oh, I feel your pain and stuff. They might not need that right now, right?
Yeah.
Um, or they want to be fine until the funeral, then they'll get all the emotions out, but you
Yeah.
possibly, oh my gosh. Or even, well, another thing about, let's rewind to that question we
Yeah.
asked, something not to ask somebody, how did they pass away? Like, they're not here.
It
If it was
doesn't
a,
matter.
a
Yeah.
motorcycle, I mean, of course it was something crazy like a motorcycle accident. Freak accident is like, it was all of a sudden, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes if maybe somebody's sick, and or like you don't know the story, maybe it will come out. But
Yeah.
you asking is not the appropriate time, like when it just happened.
No.
Even for a friend, like you see stuff on social media, but
Yeah.
sometimes you look at people's comments like, "Oh my gosh, when did they pass or how did they pass?" Just know that somebody shared that information, and it
Yeah.
wasn't the easiest. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree. I agree. Like there's things that, but I think even through the process, I had to give people grace because I'm like, they don't know what to say because it's almost like, why did you say this to me? Or, but I think too, like even with our friendship, it's because we know there's that commonality, but we don't have to sit around and talk. Like I think that's the part about friendship is being able to understand like, hey, we're going through life things and holding space. Like, if we don't talk about it, we don't talk about it. Like,
right.
it
We know
does.
what happened. Just at some point we may, where it's like, oh, how were you when this happened? But
Yeah.
it's never going away. So, you have time to talk about it. No, they say tomorrow's not promised, but you don't have to ask them that same week or same month, like,
Mhm.
oh, well, let me know how, let them offer it. Cause sometimes, you share like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have, and then I'll say, oh yeah, because X, Y, and Z, we were there. So,
Yeah.
let them kind of lead with what they want to talk about. Like you said, just hold space just to be there when they need you.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I appreciate you talking with me today and
Of
having this
course.
conversation with me. And the thing is that grief may never go away for different people.
Mhm.
But it does allow a space for us to transform how we're processing it and how we move forward. And so this
Right.
conversation is really geared towards helping the audience think about how do they navigate it. If you haven't experienced it, that's great. But at some point, we all experience it in some form of fashion.
Right.
And we can carry a lot. It can be in the form of memories. It can be in sometimes in spaces of regret. But I really just hope that people learn to find a way to still push ahead, to still find the beauty of the process, and to also just learn how to create space for friendships and the people that we care about, and understanding that you're not having to go through this alone and your
Right.
story really truly matters. So thank y'all for listening and holding a space for the both of us to have this transparent conversation. And I really hope that something about what we shared today resonates with you. And if it has, I will hope that you can share this with someone that might need a little bit of encouragement due a season of grief and loss. And if you have any comments, you can definitely put it into the show notes. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to another episode.
Thank you guys.